Imagine spotting a multi-bagger early. IRFC skyrocketed 600% in just 18 months, making investors feel like they were on a bullet train to massive gains. But now, the brakes have slammed hard. The stock is down 47% from its peak, and it's not alone. IRCTC, IRCON, Titagar, and RVNL all have tumbled down between 35 to 50% from their all time highs. So, in today's video, we'll try to answer the following questions like, has IRFC's top line stagnated in spite of big expansion announcement by Indian Railways? What's wrong with IRFC, and what could be the next growth driver for IRFC? We're going to answer all these questions in today's video, but before that, let's quickly understand about the history of IRFC in a fun-filled manner. In the mid 1980s, Indian Railways was at a crossroad. The network was vast, the ambitions grand, but the funds limited. The government needed a financial backbone to support the expansion of one of the world's largest railway systems. And so, in 1986, IRFC was born. Over the 1990s and 2000s, IRFC's role grew, securing international funding and financing railway infrastructure like electrification and freight corridors. Despite its importance, it remained out of the public eye until its IPO in 2021, which raised 4,600 crore rupees but saw a muted response. For years, IRFC was undervalued despite its consistent profits and government backing. Then, in 2023-24, the railway stock surged and IRFC finally got its due. Well, I hope you have understood about the history of IRFC, and as discussed, we are going to understand about the answers to all these three questions. But first and foremost, let's try and understand the very first one, which is, has IRFC's top line stagnated in spite of big expansion plans by the Indian Railways? But first, we need to understand whether there are really any big expansion plans or not. And for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a press release which came right after our union budget on the 1st of February. And for that, have a look at this. You can very clearly see that announcement something like 200 new Vande Bharat trains, 100 Amrit Bharat trains, 50 Namo Bharat Lala, you can read through and through. In addition to new trains which were announced, it was also announced that we aim to become the second highest freight carrying railways in the world to touch a target 1.6 billion tons of cargo by the end of this fiscal. Now, please understand, if we were to have such amazing expansion plans, if we were to bring in more and more railways, then what is required? Paisa. We need money, right? And for that, how would Indian Railways fund this whole requirement? For that, there would be three possible sources. The very first one can be the budgetary support from the central government. Now, the question is that, did the budget specifically allocate some funds for that? Of course, yes. Again, for that, have a look at the same one. You can see here that an amount of 2,52,000 crore rupees was allocated for the financial year 25-26 as a gross budgetary support to Ministry of Railways, and that was done second time in a row. Okay, so to fund all these dreams for Indian Railways, number one, as I mentioned, they are going to get budgetary support from what? From the Ministry of Finance. Second one is they can also fund it through their internal resources. Now, what do I mean by this? Simple. Whenever people travel through railways, the Indian Railways are going to collect tickets. Whenever some goods are transported, they are going to collect freight. And of course, that is also a source of revenue for the Indian Railways that can be used to fund their dreams as well. So that is the second one, internal resources. And the third one is called as EBR, also known as extra budgetary resources. Where comes IRFC in picture? Because it is such financial institutions who lend money to Indian Railways, and this lending of money is called as funding for the dreams of Indian Railways through an EBR, that is extra budgetary resources. So for those who want to have one more wrap up, as I mentioned, Indian Railways has big dreams of expansions, this, that. For that, where are they going to get the money from? Three resources. Number one is budgetary support from the central government. Number two, internal resources. And number three, EBR, that is nothing but extra budgetary resources, where financial institutions like IRFC give them money. So, in simple words, I hope you have understood what is IRFC. IRFC is nothing but like an NBFC, non-banking financial company, wherein they are going to give loans. So what will be the main source of income for IRFC? It's going to be interest income. Okay, now you might be thinking that for what purposes does IRFC give loans to railways? Do they give it only for bogies, or do they give it for laying tracks? Do they give it for building stations, or what? For that, you will have to understand the AUM of their revenue, and for that, have a look at this. Now, if you see here, a major chunk, that is 46% roughly, forms a part of this is a part of their AUM, by the way. AUM is nothing but assets under management. In simple words, that is nothing but a breakup of their loan portfolio. Okay, now for which purposes have they given a loan? Number one is advance against railway infrastructure assets to be leased. So what could be an example of a railway infrastructure? Like I mentioned, it could be tracks, it could be about railway bridges, it could be about railway stations, it could be about signals. All these will be part of the railway infrastructure system, and to fund that, almost 46% of the loan book has been allocated to such purposes. That is for IRFC's loan book. Second highest you can see is lease receivables rolling stock assets. Now, what do we mean by rolling stock? That could be something like locomotives, it could be coaches, it could be wagons, anything which is moving, right? So that is why it is called as a rolling stock. The third part of their AUM, again the third largest, is lease receivable project assets. Now, what do we mean by project assets? So, for example, government needs funds for bullet trains, or they need funds to fund the freight corridor, and they raise money from IRFC. So that part will come up under this chunk of their AUM, and ultimately just less than 1%, but they have given a loan to even RVNL. Okay, so all in all, what did we understand right now? IRFC gives loans. The loan book can be divided for multiple things like infrastructure, or it could be rolling stock, or it could be to other companies under Ministry of Railways, and project finances also. So we've understood how does their AUM look like. Now, one thing you might have realized, that their major customer, or I may say the only customer, is Ministry of Railways. How does RBI allow such a company like IRFC to give full loan exposure to only one customer? Because for other NBFCs, they'll have some norms that you can't give 100% loan to a single client, but IRFC is an exception. Okay, because IRFC was formed only for this purpose. That's what we saw in the history of IRFC, correct? So first things first, what you have understood is the only customer for IRFC is Ministry of Railways. Number two, very important, is that till date they have a history of zero NPAs, zero non-performing assets, because obviously it's like, otherwise it is like government has done a default. So zero NPAs. And very important, one more fun fact is that you will have zero tax for IRFC. If you check their profit before tax and profit after tax, it's the same, because they're exempt from paying taxes. Maybe the logic is that ultimately they're going to collect tax from IRFC, and they're again going to use it for Indian Railways only. So maybe that could be the reason. I'm not sure. That could be one of the reasons why they're exempt from tax. So I hope you have understood all these important points, these interesting facts. And for now, we have understood 2-3 points. That number one, has government definitely taken up these big expansion announcements seriously? Yes. Have we understood what is the project, what is the overall business model of IRFC? Answer is yes. Have we understood about the AUM? Yes. One last point is that in spite of all these things, question is, has their top line stagnated? And for that, have a look at this. You will see that March 2024, their top line was 26,645 crores, and TTM, their top line is just 26,902 crores. And before that, you can very well see that the top line was increasing nicely. So now that you have understood that in spite of big budgetary plans for Indian Railways, the top line of IRFC has stagnated. The question is why? What's wrong with IRFC? That's what we are going to check in the next section of the video. Has the color of your portfolio gone from this to this to this or to this? But let me tell you that you are not alone. There are a lot of people who are in pain right now, because though market has fallen by barely 12%, their portfolios have fallen way more than that. It's fascinating how the same market conditions can create two completely different outcomes. For most, it's a time of stress and uncertainty, but for successful investors, it's like walking into a luxury store during a clearance sale. They know that market corrections have historically been the perfect time to buy fundamentally strong stocks at discounted prices. But the key is knowing how to identify such stocks. And that's where my comprehensive stock market courses come in. More than 270,000 registered learners on my website are learning the game of long term investing. You too can upskill yourself through my pre recorded courses, through which you can learn anytime, anywhere. And not only this, my courses come with additional perks like WhatsApp and email support, PDF notes for quick revision, and monthly Zoom Q&A sessions directly with me. So what are you waiting for? Enroll now. You all might be aware that the Q3 numbers were announced recently. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a comparison between first 9 months data of financial year 24-25, and we'll compare the first 9 months data of 23-24 and see how much is the growth in the top line and in the bottom line. Okay. And for that, have a look at this. Now, if you see, our revenue from operation has grown at a pace of 1.27%. That's like nothing, right? If you have a look at PBT has grown at 2.67% and PAT has also grown at 2.61%. You'll be like, what? How are the numbers exactly the same? That's what we checked in the previous section of the video, that this company is not required to pay any tax, right? And that is the reason why PBT, PAT are the same. But now understand, a growth of just 1.2% at top line, 2.6% at the bottom line. Do you think that the company will be in the investors' positives or in the investors negatives mind frame? So obviously in the negatives wala mind frame. Now we have to understand what led to this, why the top line is not increasing. Is it that the budgetary allocation is decreasing for Indian Railways? For that we need to have some data points, right? And for that, have a look at this. Now we are going to have in front of you data right from financial years 2020, 21 to 22, 23, 24, 25 and 26. So we have 6 years data in front of you right now, and we are going to check at the budgetary allocation that went from 1.6 lakh crores to 1.1 lakh crore to 1.4 lakh crore, a sharp increase to 2.4 lakh crores to 2.52 lakh crores, and again same at 2.52 lakh crores. You might be like, okay Rachna, it has stagnated in the last 2-3 years, agreed, but overall it has gone up from 1.6 lakh crores to 2.52 lakh crores, and isn't that a big jump? And if there is a huge budgetary allocation to Indian Railways, don't you think that the top line of IRFC should have increased? No. Because if you remember, Indian Railways will get its funding from three resources. One is budgetary allocation, one is internal accruals, and the third one is EBR. So we need to check how much is EBR now. So EBR allocation, let's have a look one by one. In 2020-21, it was 1,23,196. I'm going to round it off. Then 71,000. Then all are like 71,000 crores. So everything is rupees in crores, right? 71,000. Then 1,01,500. Then almost 50,000. And down to 10,000 and again 10,000. So overall, now in the past 6 years, if you see, the EBR allocation has gone down from 1,23,196 crores to just 10,000 crores. And last 2 years, as I mentioned, it's stagnant at 10,000 crores. Can I say now this is going to cause a problem to IRFC? Answer is obviously yes. Because if the EBR allocation is just so low, then the top line of IRFC is definitely going to get impacted. Now, let's try and do some basic mathematics. Okay, I'm not saying that this is going to be exactly the same, but we'll do some basic math, right? Now, if you see, top line for financial year 23-24 was 26,645 crores. Okay, how much is the EBR? EBR is 10,000 crore as per the budget. Now let's assume that the interest rate is 8%. This is an assumption. Interest rate is 8%. So with 10,000 crores, and what also we are assuming that entire 10,000 crore ka EBR, the budgetary allocation, that is the EBR basically here in this case, entire 10,000 is disbursed, is what we will assume. If that be so, 10,000 crores, of course, into 8% will add up to 800 crores, correct? 800 crores will be the new top line growth that will be added to what? To the existing top line of 26,645 crores. So the new top line, which is expected for the year ended 2025, will be 27,445 crores, but TTM is 26,902 crores only. Now, as per current TTM, though, the growth is 0.96%. It's less than 1%. But even if we consider that the top line will go to 27,445 crores by the end of the coming financial year, that still translates into a growth rate of barely 3%. So I hope you have understood the first pain point. What's wrong with IRFC is a poor top line growth of barely 3%. Now, what do you think? Will top line increase if something happens? What is that something? If disbursements are on an increasing trend, then interest income may increase. But for disbursements to go up, the EBR has to go up, which is not going up. So, what is the scenario for disbursements? Have a look at this. You can see here from 2018 to 19 to 20 to 21, the disbursements were going up very nicely. 22, sudden drop. 23, sudden drop. 24, nil, zero disbursements. And the 9 months ended data for FY25 also, the disbursements are nil. So for 1 year and 9 months, there is no extra disbursement. What will happen to the AUM in such cases? AUM is going to stagnate, and if there are repayments, AUM is in fact going to go down. What has happened? Have a look at this. You'll see FY 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, it was nicely increasing all these assets under management. 24, it almost stagnated, and Q3 FY25, it's a shade lower as compared to FY24. That's what you can see. Maybe some sort of repayment also has happened. So all in all, what has happened? Three major points. Number one, as I said, poor top line growth, poor bottom line growth. Number two, as I mentioned, no disbursement because EBR itself is on a lower side. And number three, because no fresh disbursement, AUM has been almost stable, in fact, a shade lower. So I hope with this you have understood what's wrong with IRFC. So now, if you remember, in today's video, we had said that we are going to answer three main questions. Which were these three? That's what you can see on the screen. And out of these three, two already have been answered. What is the last one? What could be the next growth driver for IRFC? Now, please understand, now that you and me also know that what are the problems that IRFC is facing, don't you think management also knows that they are facing that problem? And will they try to counter these problems? Answer is yes. Management understands, absolutely agreed. But don't you think that the investors or the analysts are going to ask these questions to the management in the investor con calls? Absolutely yes. And that is what Mr. Akshay Patil had asked in one of the previous con calls. You can see that he mentions that from the past 3 quarters, the results have been like the top line and bottom line growth have been more or less the same, stagnant. So what is the forward looking statement for the next financial year? That's what he's asking. Even we understand that top line bottom line is almost stagnant. What next? So for that, management has answered that we are now going to venture out into businesses other than railway businesses. So basically what they are saying is that we are now going to fund some other projects other than railways as well. He mentions that in railways their margins are fixed to 40 paisa to 35 paisa, that's 0.4 or 0.35% margin. But he mentions that the margins for other projects other than railways are almost 3x to 5x of what they are getting in Indian Railways. So this is interesting for sure. But I'm sure, like you, even these people had this doubt that is this even allowed? Because definitely IRFC was formed to fund Indian Railways. Are they allowed to fund something other than railways? And for that, the management has said that yes, anything which is backward and forward linked with Indian railway business is in our ambit, or is in my ambit, is what he says. So in simple words, they say that if it has some sort of linkage with the railways, they are allowed to give funding. And that's what you can see right now, that they have entered into contracts with different entities like IRFC or REMC, and that's where they are going to fund projects like coal mines or renewable energy projects as well. So all in all, what management has mentioned is that they are pretty much confident that by financial year 2028, IRFC will have a meaningful AUM portion of non-railway financing as well. So, what do we need to conclude from the entire study that we did for almost more than 15 minutes now? Two things that we need to check. Number one is that in the upcoming budgets, what would be the allocation for EBR? Number two, we will have to check how much is the allocation of non-railway projects to AUM. If we keep a track of these two things, I'm sure you will be able to understand about the possible movement of IRFC prices in a much better way. If you did enjoy the analysis that I tried to present, please don't forget to smash the like button. Don't forget to share this video with your friends. I'll see you in the next one. Till then, take care. Jai Hind and bye bye.